Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Hello and welcome everyone to a new episode of the Life and Happiness Podcast, run by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Steven Solorzano, and here's an interesting... this one's going to sound a little bit different, I imagine, because, well, I'm in a new setup. I had to come down to Los Angeles. It was rather busy, and getting everything all set up here took a little while, but everything's all good. And, well, yeah, now I can get this episode out to the rest of you. What's the most interesting thing that's happened this week? Let's see. I already talked about the Jack Snyder cut. President Biden made his first speech. Other than that, nothing else comes to mind. Well, nothing lighthearted, because there's the border crisis. There's the George Floyd trial, but none of it seems relevant to our subject matter. And nothing new and fun has come out soon, other than rumors for a new Switch later this year. And I'm curious how those will pan out, because they've pushed aside any thoughts of essentially, like, imagine a Switch Pro. So think about it like iPhone 6C or something, or what's another good example of something like that? I guess when they come out with like with the initial iPad version, and they come out with like the higher quality one soon after, that would be the equivalent of this. But this would be for Nintendo Switch, the gaming console, which you can play at home or make it portable, you know? So, other than that, nothing else comes to mind. So let's just get right back into the material. So here's the question of the day. When do intentions matter? And do they matter? And the reason why I was getting into this is, so I was watching a show called Gundam. It's an anime, and a friend wanted me to go check this out. And the reason why he wanted me to check it out is because, well, other than their weird ways of going about philosophy, they don't have sides which are explicitly good and evil. Essentially, they both trade places of who is worse at the moment. And, well, it was an interesting perspective into the types of motivations people have when they do mass acts of destruction, which results in many human lives being lost. So, and I'm not exactly sure intentions are the most important thing, and intentions, I think, matter most in regards to when someone is doing something wrong. That way you can best figure out what punishment actually befits the crime, you know? That's the only way I can think where intent must be scrutinized. Because think about it. We're all free-thinking people. We're all individuals. How the hell are you supposed to know what exactly motivated someone to do a specific thing, good or bad? And whether or not they did a bad thing or a good thing. it's a lot of the time it's more so the action that matters, and the intentions, maybe the intentions let you figure out the details, and sometimes the details are important, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the actions which determine what happens in the end, right? So we'll get into all of this today, and our last segment is going to be seven situations in which intentions do matter, because that will be kind of be the opposite of what my thesis of today is. I don't think intentions matter all that much. Let's start with opening doors for people, because we discussed this a little bit in another time before. I think we did on chivalrous type stuff, honoring women in a way that some men try to do. So when someone opens the door for you, some are likely to interpret it as, oh, you think I can't do it myself, which is why you're doing it for me. Which in many cases, I don't think that's true at all. I think someone is doing it just to be kind. They see people going through, they see a family going through it, or see a person going through, and they have the ability to do so. So I'm just going to use some of my seconds of my day just for a kind gesture for you to go through, right? But even with that, let's say they actually did believe that you couldn't open the door for yourself and you needed someone to go do it for you. Think about that. So but they don't, let's say they don't say it in both situations, they just in that action that they did. How would you be able to tell the difference? How would you know? Maybe there's a look in their face, but what would that look in the face necessarily mean? Why would you just type down, oh, this person, what they're intending to do is straight up just to belittle me? Or is this person just being kind? Is this just like they're taking a little bit part of their day just to do this little sweet little gesture? And ultimately, in the end, they both end in the same result. You didn't have to stick your hand out, open the door, and you guys got to go through. And it was easy. It made your day slightly easier. And I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, seriously, like, who did you hurt by doing that? It's only if you would want to be offended by it that you'll take offense to it. Like, we talked about the lens of values before, how your worldview affects the way you interpret things. It's only if you're constantly thinking that people are trying to belittle you that you would interpret someone as, opening a door for you as like, hey, he's making me look small, he's making me look insignificant because little old me can't even open a door. Apparently I need people to hold it open for me. Like, that's a really big leap in logic. And ultimately, that's what it's doing for you. It's making it so that you can't really appreciate what that person did, and that's just making yourself more angry. So, as a result, it's like you're already victimizing yourself, and then you're seeing that specific little action as basically a symbol of that victimization. That's why you're getting upset when everyone else is either going to be like, oh, someone did that, okay, cool, or there's almost be like, wow, they took their time out of it, they just opened the door for me, thank you. It's so, in the end, whatever that person's intentions were, I don't even think they matter in regards to how you interpret it at all. Because you know what? They could have been doing it just to oppress you, and they could have been doing it to be nice. And you have no idea which. It's only how you take it. And also, if someone was trying to do that, act in a way that would basically make it so Do you feel belittled? Do you feel that you can't do anything? I think they'd be more overt about it, you know? Make sure you understood that was the end goal, right? You know? But I don't think that's the case in that situation. So, it would just be a completely different scenario if someone was trying, because this is just someone opening the door for you, irrespective of what their intentions were. They just open the door and you go through. So that's just one example. That's just one example. Now let's see. What's another situation in which intentions don't necessarily matter? How about, here's an interesting one. How about the person that goes and builds hospitals because they want their name on buildings, and they do this by building hospitals? Is that person selfish? Yeah, he wants his name on things. Is he doing something wrong? No. He's building hospitals. These hospitals are saving lives. So ultimately, this person is doing a good service, irrespective of intentions, you know? So now let's compare him to the man that builds hospitals out of the kindness of his heart. How would you know? Again, what you're probably going to see is this person built this hospital, so his name is on the building, and there's probably like a plaque to him, like in the front. Like, oh, blah, blah, so-and-so person did all this, and with the money he had, he went and brought us the funds which would make this opportunity possible. And that's going to be the same situation for the dude who just wants his name on buildings and just provides money to a lot of people to build hospitals. And in the end, both have hospitals that are built, and you wouldn't know the difference. Did you go into that hospital? They fix up your leg after you broke it in some accident, and you're just thankful that the hospital was there and thankful the hospital's high quality. Well, I hope it was high quality. I think in these two scenarios, these rich people would make it high quality. But what's the difference between the two actions? You know, we can say maybe the guy who just wants to see his name on buildings, maybe he's definitely less noble than the other one. But he's done just the same amount of good with the action of building the hospital. So here's an interesting concept that I can just derive from that. I think it's doing good doesn't matter. Doing good your intentions don't matter so long as you're doing good. That's the thesis for today. That's the main idea. That, because, you know, let's say, I'll go into this specific example in the next segment, but I'm going to start by contrasting people who want to do bad, but end up doing good as a result, versus the person who wants to do good, but ends up doing bad. And both of them are just horrible at trying to do what they want to do, and they just end up making basically the opposite happen. And we're gonna see the net. And I'm gonna illustrate the net good that comes from the person who wants to do bad, and it just fails at it, versus the person who wants to do good and fails at it. And this reminds me of a Mark Twain quote. I'm a struggle to quote it, so I'm going to paraphrase it. Basically what it says is, the one thing he doesn't want to hear is someone coming over to him and saying, the one thing he's terrified is someone coming over to him is like, hey, I'm here to do you good. Basically the kind of thing saying, like, if I remember more detail of it, basically it's like, he's more afraid of the person who tells me he's going to do something for me out of the goodness of his heart than basically essentially any other group. And he compares that group to politicians. Mark Twain has many quotes against Congress and politicians. He's an interesting writer. If you don't know, Mark Twain is the author of classics like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. I believe he was also a poet, but of that I am not certain. So, we'll see. I gotta go check back and make sure I get this quote for certain. So next time I use it, I can have it to you guys exactly. But yeah, like, think about it. It's a little terrifying. If someone's certain of a way, they know how to do good. Well, what does it mean to know what they're doing? Because the reason why that's a little bit dangerous is they don't think they're wrong. And they could be wrong. They very well could be wrong and get me in more trouble than I bargained for. But yeah, we'll go explore that idea in the next segment. And I'll see you guys soon.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the next segment of the Life and Happiness podcast run by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Steven Solorzano, in a new setup over here, and let's get back into this. Today we're talking about intentions, when they matter, when they don't, and the last segment is going to be kind of the opposite of my thesis. It's going to be 7 situations in which intentions do matter. And let's get back into the subject matter. So last segment, we were finishing off with the idea emerging that doing good matters more than the intentions of which you did such good. And I was contrasting the two types of people who build hospitals. The one who does it out of the kindness of their heart, and one that basically they want recognition. They want their name on the hospital. And in the end, to the average person, all that matters is the hospital is built and it's saving lives. No one cares about how the person felt about building the hospital. And yeah, you know what? That first guy who did it out of the kindness of the heart, he's more noble, he's more honorable. But so what? You don't need it. You don't know the difference. How would you know the difference? You'd only know the differences in notes. And you know what? Maybe we find that out and we tell stories about the guy. But for the most part, all that matters is, you know what, that hospital's built. It's patched me up. It's there for other people, and that's a good thing. And we also showed the difference in, like, if someone had different intentions in opening the door, someone's doing it intending to belittle you versus just out of the kindness of their heart. And that's not that different too. And it really depends how you want to take it. It's like, when it comes to someone doing good, it doesn't matter what the intentions were. It's only if you're choosing to take offense to their less than noble intentions while doing good. And I think one of the first things I want to address when it comes to this is you'll hear a lot of the time something along the lines of, well, by trying to do good, you're just being selfish because it'll make you feel good to do good. So then you're not good at all because you're being selfish. And the reason why people make that judgment is because they're trying to absolve themselves of responsibility. Basically saying that everyone is corruptible, so no one is good. That's the point. So the person who, you know what, they go to the soup kitchen and they go feed the homeless once a week. That's how they spend their Sunday. And And you know what? It makes them feel better. It's what they look forward to doing it every week, and it makes them smile every time they do so. That is essentially the equivalent of, hey, it makes me feel good to go drink all the time. And I look forward to that every week. It makes me feel better. That's what I want to do, you know? So when someone makes that claim, they're saying those are the exact same thing. That there's no difference in the types of actions because it's just people trying to feel good. Which, of course, that's wrong. Like, who in their right mind would say that you going and drinking a bunch of alcohol is the same as me going and feeding the homeless? Like, seriously. Like, you gotta have some courage to level an accusation like that, or level that type of proposition that you and I are exact same if we don't do those different actions. So anyway, the reason why I established that point is to say, you know what, some actions are more noble than others, and some actions are less noble than others. Explicitly saying, you know, there's good and evil, there's right and wrong. Some things are better than others. And the reason why that's important is because only in that situation do intentions not matter. Because if all actions are equivalent, then of course the only thing that matters is basically, what were my thoughts going into it? Was I trying to be kind when I did it? Because let's say I was trying to be kind to my friend. I ended up breaking his computer because he needed help fixing it. And we're saying, and now if you say that there is no right and wrong, that there is no worse or better, then that is the same thing as me trying to help him and actually it goes the right way. The main thing would be, hey, my aim was to help him, and he can't say anything if my intention was to help him, because it's the feelings which are more important. But if you ask that friend how he would feel, he wouldn't give a damn how noble my intentions were. He either fixed my computer or he broke it. It's one of those two. And to him, it doesn't matter how I felt. Now if he fixed it, you know what? He was trying to help me out and he did it. Awesome. Or now I'm in a better situation, you know, I may appreciate him more. Or what if he was trying to help me out and he broke my computer? Well, what the hell? Now he just made everything worse. And now let's throw a third. Let's say he was trying to break my computer and he ended up fixing it. Like, I don't know what he did, but he may better have been like, dude, thanks. You fixed my problems. And you know what? He wouldn't be able to say anything. He'd probably just be dumbfounded if that he messed up so bad on what his intentions were. But to me, the person whose computer he was fixing, it's like net plus. So, in those situations, you know what? It's like, I may not get as angry at the person who was trying to fix my computer, but ended up not being able to, end up making it worse. I won't get as angry as him as someone who was trying to break my computer and they broke my computer. But the net result isn't that different, you know? The intentions aren't so compared to the good, the intentions matter more specifically to when you're doing something wrong. For the reason being, the punishment which happens, the judgment, I won't say tends because you never know what to expect with people, but it should fit the crime. And to the crime, it does matter what your intent was going in. Think about the difference between the degrees of murder and manslaughter. Manslaughter basically is you were negligent for some reason and it resulted in the death of another person. First degree murder is I'm pretty sure it's like an act of passion. So you didn't know this person, you weren't expecting it, something happened, and in a fit of rage or a fit of emotion, you ended up taking their life. Second degree murder is you know this person, you have a history with this person, and it's your history which awakened with you a fit of passion, which ended in the death of that person. And third degree murder is basically you have a history with this person and you wanted to kill this person. And the differences between all of those is your intention and the context of your relationship to the person. So I hope you get what I'm saying here. It's not that, well, how to describe it? It's not intentions are meaningless, because they're not meaningless. They're important, but only in regards to punishments for something wrong, only when someone has done a wrong. That's the only context in which it does matter to what someone's intentions were in going into something. And let's see, let's go with more examples of the good, because, well, yeah, I think that point needs to be illustrated further. So there's a story in the New York Times about a month ago, if I remember correctly. Basically, it was about these neighbors. One of them, out of the kindness of their heart, shuffled the driveways of both neighbors. And the article was about the neighbor who the other neighbor shoveled her driveway of, writing about, this person may have done something kind to me, but because he believes something different than I do, I don't care what his action or intentions were. He's a horrible person. And that was the whole crux of it. So this neighbor hasn't, and he went into their history. It's like, this neighbor has never treated them horribly. This is not the first time they've done something like shoveled their driveway at the kindness of their heart. They've brought over food. They're just good people. Well, they act like good people. But his point was, because they think one thing differently than I do, then these people are despicable. No matter what they do, they can't escape the label that they are horrible, evil human beings. Well, and that's just kind of sad. Like, really, would you label someone like that? Like, think about it. You rarely get those kinds of people nowadays. People who just go out of the way to make things better, just to make you feel good. Like, seriously, why would you demonize that kind of person? Why wouldn't you want to appreciate them? Why wouldn't you want to appreciate them? It's just sad. I can't get my head around why they would want to demonize someone like that. Think about it. Okay, let's say in another example, let's show you the difference between two relationships. So you have the husband that's the abusive, but the way their intentions are towards their wife is that they have the best intentions for them. They want things to go well for them. They think what they know is right, so that they treat them a certain way, which is telling them exactly what they want to do, not letting them have any freedom, and just essentially just taking control over the other person. Does that make that into a good situation? Does him believing he's doing what's right for his wife make him into a good husband? Because in all those actions, he's being, I'm sure many of you agree, he's being horrible to her. So it's like, he basically even though in his mind, he thinks he's doing the right thing. Not letting your own wife have freedom, being dismissive of her ideas because you think you know what's right for her, and basically treating her, I guess in what many people, in my mind, the way I'm seeing this scenario is like basically treating her as almost like a slave. It's, well, no matter how good his intentions are, I can't see why he would be, wouldn't be able to label him as a good person because of it. Versus, let's say someone had a horrible image in their mind of how to treat someone abusively, and what they thought is, I'm just gonna, and because they're not the smartest or not the most aware of this type of scenario, they bring their wife gifts, they let her have freedom and all these other things. They think that's wrong, and they're trying to do wrong. But they end up doing all these things, all these good things, or just, I'm just thinking of basically this person. He's trying to do bad, but all his things ends up making his wife's day better. He's like, oh, my wife likes cleaning. Oh, I'm gonna go take that away from her. I'm gonna clean for her so she doesn't have to. So she won't get to. And then the wife will be like, oh, wow, that's so nice. He's taking care of things for me. At least that's what I see in my head. I wonder what you guys all think. Anyways, I'll continue all this in the next segment. We'll get back into this, and I'll see you all soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Alright, welcome back to the third segment of the Life and Happiness podcast, run by the GSMC Podcast Network. And I am your host, Steven Solorzano, and let's get back into this one. We've been exploring all day the issue where, when do intentions matter? Because I think that when it comes to doing good, intentions don't matter that much at all. But when it comes to doing bad, that's when it matters what your mindset was going through. And as we went through the different degree, like showing the differences between manslaughter, murder, and the degrees of murder, of why intent is so important in determining what type of punishment befits the crime, essentially. And, well, I want to explore that kind of further, because there are situations like I want to give honest credibility to why we actually do have this idea of pure intentions, that kind of thing, because we got to split this into idealism and practicality, because that specifically is what highlights the issue of the day. Now, for ideals, what do I mean? What do I mean by that? So think about all those mythological stories, like the perfect hero. Think about Disney. Think about Disney with Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty. The princes that were essentially noble and perfect in every way. It's not just that they were strong. It's not that they were elegant, regal, of the highest character. They also, it showed in their dress and their mannerisms. They just were essentially the best a man could aspire to be. Because not only do they have the kindness and softness that you see in the movies of how they treat those lovely princesses, those beautiful women, but also at least in Sleeping Beauty, with the fierceness of that they have to face the dragon, which is Maleficent, and to take her down, to stand tall and courageous despite how dire the situation got. And you know what that's marked by? That's marked by their noble intentions. In everything that they did, they had the good in mind. And it's why they're loved so much. And you know what? That's an archetype. That is an idea embodied in its purest form. And, there's good reason to be admired. Those are things that we should aspire to, to only have those good intentions for people. But the problem with that is, it's not, even though it is very real and it's how to put it, it's an aspect within us. Humans are much more complicated than that, and we don't have such intentions all the time. We're complicated beings. It's also why anti-heroes are so popular. The ones who are edgy, and they end up doing good, despite how gritty their mindsets may be. And you know what? Not all anti-heroes are equal. Not all anti-heroes are basically good. But it's a lot more realistic in that there are competing tendencies within that person. Unlike the ideal, which is the hero prince, who embodies only the good. So now we're going to go into explore a more realistic expectation. So, in this real world of ours, we understand that people aren't those ideals. They have all these competing thoughts. So, it's important to recognize that, sometimes people have bad intentions. That's just true. It could be anyone. You, me, random person on the street, any color, any gender, doesn't matter. People have bad intentions. It's like this idea we explored the other time. People aren't innately good. And if any of you have actually looked at human history, then it's pretty common that humans are pretty bad in regards to how they treat one another. For example, slavery has been existent for thousands and thousands of years. It may be humanity's oldest institution. And if you didn't know this, slaves still exist in most parts of the world. It's the Western nations which have really abolished it. But it's all over Latin America. It's all over India and China. I don't know if you know about the Uyghur Muslims, but basically, look into it. There's concentration camps out in the communist China, on the level of things which happened in World War II. Human trafficking is essentially full of child sex slaves, and that's something which goes on all over the world, and that one even through some Western nations. I'm pretty sure it was a Canadian town. I think it was Toronto. I'm pretty sure Toronto is the human trafficking capital of the world. It might be a different Canadian town, but I know it was in Canada. And we don't talk about this. We don't realize how much malintent there is out there. Because if you live in the United States, we have it pretty good. It's not... So, my family grew up in Guatemala, and I've been there several times. The way my dad put it to me is, if I were to speak English down there, it was overwhelmingly likely that I'd get mugged, because they would think that since I spoke that language, that I'd be from the United States, or at least from Europe, and therefore would have money, because they have it so bad out there that people are willing to do a lot so that they can protect their families, so they can provide for them. And it even means hurting other people. Because, in the end, most people see themselves and their families as most important. It's them or everyone else. And lots of evil happens out there. Lots of horrible evil. Right now in this day, we're lucky we don't have to deal with the type of things that happen outside of our cushy country. But what that does is it makes us blind to those same kind of evils. If you don't understand what real evil is, how dark humans can be and are, then you end up making up evils to fight. You end up focusing on tiny little things as if that's the biggest fight in the world, when in reality, it's nothing compared to everything else out there. That reminds me of, there's this video you guys can watch on YouTube of people with good intentions in their mind, yes, but they go and hold a funeral for the meat in a supermarket. And, well, if I were to explain that worldview, that's a completely different one where they hold animals on equal regard to humans. So basically, you're a squirrel, you're a fly, you're a cockroach. There's no difference. So we should mourn the lives of these animals just the exact same as we do the lives of humans. But this may be just my observation. But what I have found is that these people tend to, at least the ones I've met, they tend to value animals' lives over human lives. Actually, Percy Jackson kind of describes this this kind of idea very well. One of the characters, he's very along these lines, and when he's allowed to fulfill his kind of fantasies in this one specific moment in one of the books, he is essentially reveling over the death of humans because of their actions against animals. He's like, whether those people, so that's like saying these people would mourn or are holding an actual funeral for the cuts of pork and the cuts of beef out in the supermarket, versus when it comes to, let's say, the massive things which happen in communist China, the Uyghur camps, all those death kind of things, and the human trafficking all across India, the Middle East, the slaves out there, and Africa too, and Latin America. It's turn a blind eye. And you know what? You can't be perfect. And the main thing is people don't know. I don't think people realize how bad things are out there. And a big question is, well, what can you do about it? Because you know what? The reason why I'm emphasizing this all, of, you know what, real evil does happen out there, incredibly dark things to people all across the world who have it much worse than all of us, is the fact that, you know what, so long as someone is doing the things which make things better for everyone else, doing the good, then why should I care about what's his mindset when going to it? All I care is he's doing the good. He's making things better. He's giving people a higher chance of success, or he's giving people what something they might need. Is just extending kindness or generosity. I don't care if that is kindness of his heart, but the fact is they did it. And especially when you know that's not the norm. That's not the average thing. It's like the tendency is to be afraid. The tendency is to protect your own, to be tribalistic. The tendency is to sacrifice everyone else before you. Because, you know what, they're not me, and that means I get to continue living, I get to continue having everything the way I want it to be. But, you know what? Since that tendency is so strong, and that's the normal kind of thing, I'd even liken it to, it's like, the reason why humans are like this, there's so many different reasons compiled together. If I were to generalize it, you could describe it as afraid of the new, afraid of chaos, afraid of the unexplored territory. That's the idea. That's the old idea I brought up in a different episode. Because humans are like that, we don't even say hi to each other unless you have a community that's built on meeting people, meeting neighbors, getting to know everyone. Rural communities are a lot more like that. So when you don't have that culture, people won't. People don't. Like I've described this before. I see it in Los Angeles where I've been. No, if you go on the metro or if you go on the city kind of square kind of thing, no one talks to each other. No one gets each other new. You basically see your people. You go do a thing and you leave. There's no curiosity. And I see it in Davis where with many students. It's interesting. It's the first 5 weeks or so of the freshman class, which there's incessant talking between everyone. And then everyone settles into their circles, and no one goes beyond that. So, people just stick to their routines. People stick to what they know. People want habits because that's where they feel safe. That's where they feel protected. That's where they can expect everything which is coming. But the thing is about doing good, whatever type of good it is, you have to be ready to face the unknown. You have to choose to face the unknown. Over and over again. And even if you're not actively doing it, if what you do results in that good is so rare that it should be appreciated. It's so uncommon when you look at the grand scheme of things that whatever motivates people to keep being that way, to act in that manner, is what should be reinforced. And you should be encouraged. It's like... It just reminds me, it's the kind of talk we've been doing this whole time, where, you know what, you don't want to do it, and you're afraid to do it. It's going to hurt, it's going to take sacrifice, but unless you do so, nothing's going to change, nothing new is ever going to happen. So it doesn't matter what you think going into it, or why you choose to do it, but it matters to choose to work on it, to get better. It matters that you take those actions. And it reminds me of something someone told me once, where I don't know if you all know the 10 Commandments, but his point was, if we all lived by it, even if we didn't think about it, the world would be a better place. And the interesting thing of the 10 Commandments, they're all actions. Basically, don't steal, don't murder, don't lie about people, don't adulter, honor your mother and father, have one day of rest a week, that day is specific for family, honor the truth above all else. Those are the main ones. Oh yeah, and the other one is do not covet, which basically says don't want the exact same thing that other person has. And the other two are more religious type things, so I'm just focused on these main ones over here. If people just acted in that manner, then the world would be a perfect place. Think about it. Those are just all the bad actions. And don't steal cover slavery, because it was intended. People understood at the time, when you read your writings, that was one of the first things was it's meant for people. Don't steal people. And this has nothing to do with thought. It's just actions, you know? That is what would make that world kind of a paradise. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what people think. It matters that they don't do those terrible things. Anyways, we'll continue this on the next segment with seven situations when intentions do matter. And I'll see you all soon.
the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello and welcome back to the Life and Happiness Podcast, segment 4. This is all run by the GSMC Podcast Network, and let's finish it off with the 7 situations which I can think of in which intentions really do matter, but not necessarily for the same reasons of the things that we've been going on earlier today. So let's start off with the first one, and that's college. Or you could say more broadly as school. And this is more individualized. And when it comes to education, you have to go at it with the intent to be educated. If you don't have that mindset going into choosing a college, going to high school, whatever it may be, you're not going to come away learning. And I know that from experience. One thing that I've learned from the last year of me doing my own research of choosing to learn from old books, reading into philosophers, whatever I did, is that so it gave me a much greater appreciation for the history classes and English classes that I used to take. And not because I think my English teachers and history teachers did a good job, but because I realized that irrespective of how they were teaching me, that there was knowledge, that there was wisdom within these books, things to learn, things to strive for. And, well, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it. It's the whole worldview thing. Again, like it's rearing its ugly head. It's like, if you're not looking to learn, if you're not looking to grow, to push yourself, college is going to be useless on you. What, you're going to go there, get your degree, and then you're just going to be kind of the same standing you were before you came in. It's not that special. That's why when people, like, I'm thinking actually, for like business or for like art, they want people who've been looking to try to do better, to get better at all this stuff, you know? When we've been working this every single day in, day out, it's something to behold, you know? Something to behold. And then it goes into the next one, which is career. And career, like the same thing. You're not going to succeed if you're looking just to do the minimum, looking just to have a job and just kind of coast there. No, you have to give it everything you have to offer if you want to rise up. You have to be there motivated, be there to do those kind of things. It's kind of that intention that this is not just a job. This is where I will be putting everything that I have every single day, where I will be striving to rise to that top. Because if you don't have that mindset, you're going to be settled with average. You're settled with coasting. Like, I'm just going to stick at my job and stick that for so long, you know? But you can do so much more. But you won't be able to unless you change that mindset. Unless you turn that job into a career. So, again, here, attentions matter. But this is not yours for, like, good and evil type stuff. This is for your own progress. This is how you turn something into from an opportunity to a reality, a dream, which you can fully express and enjoy. So these first two had to deal with individual success in, like, into the type of things that you will get when you go into school or into work. These next few are going to be a little different. So, for dating, And intentions do matter when dating, because it depends on what you're looking for. So let's say you want someone, let's say you're looking for a life partner, you're looking for someone to marry. Well, you have to know what their intentions are, because you know what, you could be searching all you want, but if you only choose people with bad intentions, people with no intention of committing to someone, then that's all then you're just going to keep getting those and have to deal with those, the consequences of those relationships. Like, you have to if that's your goal, to find someone for that specific thing, for marriage, then yeah, you not only have to act on those intentions, you have to understand the intention of the other person before moving forward. And vice versa. If you don't want someone who wants to be serious, you got to understand their intentions too. Make it clear from the beginning, this is not a serious thing. So that's very important for those kinds, because you know what, that's where you get those people. You also got to understand your intentions before going through. A lot of people just date to date without realizing that you're either dating to marry or dating to break up. Those are the only two scenarios. It's either this is going somewhere or we're gonna just end it sometime. There's no other path. So when they go into it, actually one of my friends dealt with this for a while. She would go into relationship after relationship and she would be suffering for it because she didn't know what she wanted. And because she didn't know her own intentions, how could she kind of handle the intentions of other people? So those are just bad situation after bad situation. And this kind of goes into the next one, which is number 4, which is children. You want to go into having kids with the intention of having kids. It's not the greatest thing in the world to have them sprung upon you. And also in regards to being a good parent, you're only a good parent if you can't really be... I don't think you would be a great parent if you had bad intentions for the kid in the first place. You have to have the best intentions for that kid up front. That's not the only thing, because you also need to be able to understand and work a relationship with your kid, because there are many parents that have good intentions, but they don't understand their child, and they just kind of impose their will on their child. And you've all seen those types of parent-kid relationships, and those aren't the best. But if you don't intend to be there in the first place, you're not. Mindset is so important. If you don't have intentions in your mind to do something well, you won't do it well. If you don't have the mindset to accept that, you know what, you might be wrong, then you're not going to accept that you're wrong. So, with these, the same kind of theme run things through these 4. Intentions matter very much so in regards to you and what you want to do. If you don't believe something, if you don't think it, it's not going to happen. And that's, you know what, it's sad, but that's the reality of these things. And, well, so I guess we have 3 points. Intentions don't matter when it comes to doing good. Intentions do matter when it comes to doing bad. And intentions matter in regards to how you will excel. What you believe is what will take you places, because your actions will follow it. If you really believe something from the bottom of your heart, everything you have will be driven towards that goal. But let's keep going. Let's see every other example in which intentions matter. So, I put this one as drinking. So, alcohol. Because you know what? Alcohol is good. Alcohol can be fun. Alcohol can be a good enjoyment tool. But where the intentions go wrong is if alcohol is your escape. If you look forward to alcohol to make yourself feel better. Essentially, you could describe this in a more broader idea of, well, if whatever the form of escape is, or whatever the form of entertainment is, that is your escape from the pains of the real world, if it's what allows you to evade confronting those issues, then that's where the problems lie. I think I described this in an earlier podcast. When I learned this because the first time I drank a lot was in a time where I wasn't doing so hot, and what terrified me was when I drank, it made all those bad feelings go away. And then later, it was more terrifying when they slowly came back. That was the worst feeling I've ever had. And it just gave me this kind of understanding that, wow, I understood that I could do this to make myself feel better. I could do this with the intent of, hey, now I feel good, I can do whatever I want, when in reality it wasn't true. It was just me acting in a way which doesn't let me feel all the bad. And that's when those types of things go wrong, when they're allowing you to be afraid, allowing you to be fearful. Sadly, that's just kind of the case, you know? So, now let's go into the next two. And these are more relationship type things, but more like in regards to how people treat you. So customer service. Let's start with that. Intentions do matter. They do matter here, because all of you know when you've called in because there's a customer service issue, and you can tell the person on the line is really jaded. She doesn't want to help you. She's just there for the work, and it's kind of making the experience rather bad, or they're a little bit angry, you know, and well, it's just kind of making it all into a rough time. But then again, there's also the customer service agents who, you know what, whether or not how they're feeling, they act and intend to give the customer the best service that they can. And you feel it. It makes you feel as if they care. And when you're dealing with people, that matters a lot. People love to feel cared for. People love to feel needed. So when you can give them that proper attention, it just takes you a long way. It takes you a super long way, you know? So, next kind of thing. The last one is on this kind of thing. It's apologizing. You can feel when someone's apologies are essentially flat, devoid, empty, right? When they don't mean it, when their heart's not in it. You can feel those intentions. Especially in regards to close friendships. When you know someone well, you can pretty much guess their intentions pretty accurately based on the types of things that they do take. That they do when they're taking those actions. I guess what comes to mind is like when you're okay, actually, yeah. When you're in a relationship with someone, and you can tell. Well, at least this is more guys towards girls, but when you say the wrong word or say the wrong phrase, and you can hear in the tone of your significant other's voice. How to describe this? It's, I'm gonna kill you for that. That's the tone. Like their words may saying, they may accept your apology. They may just say whatever it is. They may play a situation, but you know they're gonna come back and get you. You can read those intentions. It's always when it's an interpersonal relationship between you and someone else, a deep one, when their intentions really do matter because you care that they care. The context of the other stuff is more like grand scheme of things, strangers, random people, the average person. It doesn't matter what their intentions are because you don't care. Okay, what you care about is that they do the good thing. But intentions really start to do matter when it's someone you know, someone you understand, because they are the person that gets to see all of you. They're the person you want to be vulnerable to. And if you're vulnerable to someone, of course you're going to care what they think about you. Of course you're going to care how they want to treat you, because that's how that trust is built, you know? That's why actually someone special to me, she told me about love, where when you love someone, enjoying everything with them is the best feeling you can ever have. But hurting for them is the worst feeling, and it hurts more than anything else. And it's true. And the reason is because you care and trust about this person so much. They know everything about you. So the thought that they might hurt you, the thought that they would choose to stab you in the back, to choose to rip you a new one, that's devastating. So, I think I've explored this idea pretty well. I wonder what you all think. Let me know in the comments down below so we can have this kind of dialogue. And I'm sure if you've liked it, give it a like and share on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Please subscribe, Spreaker too. Share and spread the word around. Let's get more of these conversations started with more people. It'll be lots of fun. Anyways, this is Steven, signing off.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.